Well, for more on the growth of the disruptive technology industry, I spoke to Danny Leipziger, Professor of International Business and International Affairs at George Washington University. I began by asking him how this sector is contributing to growing economies.
There are certainly advances in productivity that will come with new technologies, on top of which someone has to produce the robots and the 3D printers, so there's going to be an impetus there. And then there are aspects of economic activity that we didn't foresee, and I think they're anticipating that there will be new products, new services. I mean, 20 years ago we didn't have Google Maps, and we have a lot of applications that come from that. So there's no doubt that there's a positive side to technology, and that we're seeing a new wave, I think, of advance.
Now, some people say disruptive tech does create jobs, but others disagree. What's your take on this?
Well, I think, as with most technical advances, the first impact is job displacing. I think it would be a mistake to think that this is a benign activity that everyone will benefit from. There will be job losses, and the question is how extensive will they be? What will public policy be? Governments in general have not had a great track record in the areas of retraining and reskilling and cushioning some of the job displacing technologies. So no doubt there will be some disruption in the labor market, which will not always be positive.
And are there some countries that are perhaps in a better position or better prepared to really deal with that transition?
Well, I think there's evidence from the OECD that certain countries spend more on what we call active labor policies, which is basically the reskilling, retooling kind of activities. And some of the Scandinavian countries have been more successful with that, whether it's because they're just better at it, or that their workforce is more homogeneous, or that they're only in a certain number of sectors. I don't think we know. The U.S. spends almost nothing as a proportion of GDP on active labor market policies, and many of our programs, what we call adjustment assistance, which was set up in relation to trade displacement, many of them have not worked very well.
Now, in terms of what's actually driving this trend, what are some of the factors behind it?
Well, I just think digitalization has had a lot of offshoots, and so now we see a lot of possibilities that were not available, a decade ago. So you may go to a radiologist today, but a decade from now, a machine may be more accurate than the radiologist. We may have cashless societies. There are a whole range of apps and a whole range of technologies that, on the positive side, can be time-saving, they can be life-saving, they can be climate-saving. The problem is that we also have to be able to deal with some of the downsides of disruptive tech.
Now, with that being said, disruptive tech, one of the goals behind it is to really get the benefits to the people who really need it. What's being done to ensure that people can really benefit, especially those who really need it most?
Well, I think there are two aspects to that. One is there's certainly an area of information that is now free, right? So the Google Maps is essentially free, so consumers can benefit, and essentially the marginal cost is zero, is what economists would say. And so you can spread the benefits of that. More to your point about people that need assistance, we see a lot of new innovations that are pro-poor, right? You can find artificial knees being manufactured, for $100 in India. You can find eyeglasses for a fraction of the cost of what people currently pay. You can find tests for medical illness. So innovation can be pro-poor. It's a question of also public policy towards that.
Now, in terms of looking ahead, what are some of the key advances that you think could really take center stage in the coming years?
Well, I think the studies tend to look at the service sector because, we can talk about robotics, and, we have Henry Ford, we have automation, we have robotics. Okay, there's a path there. But I think the more interesting and more dynamic area is in the service sector.
Why is that?
Well, I think artificial intelligence, we don't like it when we have to call a phone company and we're put on some revolving kind of a system. But actually, there are tremendous advances that can be made in terms of accuracy and efficiency. So the studies that look at which sectors are most susceptible to disruptive technologies are now looking at the service sector. And so we see it in education, online courses and MOOCs. We see it in healthcare. And those are two of the largest employers, health and education. So I think the disruption, we tend to look at how things are produced. But I think we also have to look at how services are delivered.